hails from Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem. And of course, we will be taking we will be going to the stage in a moment. And of course, that is in line with the current program that is underway. We expect that Muna will be speaking a little bit later on in the evening, but we have some struggle veterans here from the in South African context. I see Judge Siraj Desai and others. And of course, we'll be hearing from them as the evening wears on. But for now, we cross live to the stage.
I shall not keep you long. It's quite a privilege to be here tonight. And I have been listed as the poet, but I did not feel any of my poetry would be suited for tonight. So I will be sharing poems by two other authors nonetheless, after a very short reflection. So the Rainbow Nation, for many of us, is a failed project. A neo-apartheid, where we now have to smile with our oppressors, well, actually with our settlers, right? This may not have been, thank you, as jarring if we had justice, if we had land, our land. And the effects of the insurmountable separation from our land has not only had a profound impact on our communities, but also an everlasting impact on our identities as the people of South Africa. So who we are, but also who we will be. Sometimes when I look at the injustice experienced in Palestine, sorry, my attention is so bad, I just see people moving. But sometimes when I look at the injustice experienced in Palestine, I'm not only angered by the wanton violence and displacement, but also by the many generations it will take to undo, right? Not only the present, but the future that is also being threatened. So, two minutes left. As we have realized in South Africa, or rather as we are realizing in South Africa. So just a fun fact, but I'm an Ethiopian Jew, but I'm also a Black South African. And in all transparency, like my father was actually the first Ethiopian Jew born in occupied Palestine. And my family and I haven't had contact since 2012 for very obvious reasons. But I tried to maintain contact with my 10-year-old sister, and she recently asked me why I would never come to visit her. 1 minute, okay, shit, sorry. And I asked myself, if she's too young to know that she's a colonizer, if she's too young to know that she lives in apartheid. But then I thought of all the babies in Palestine who have lost not only their present, but also their future.
Thank you. We will find, because we're going to go live at 19:13 with the broadcasters, and we've allocated this time, we're going to continue with this story afterwards. Thank you so much. Okay?
Well, thank you very much to the Cape Cultural Collective, which seeks to advance our common humanity through arts and culture. Muna, you noted that. Good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We meet today in the Ashley Kriel Memorial Hall. And we chose this hall deliberately. Over there, now you'll see a picture of a man with a bullet focused on him. That was the 20-year-old Ashley Kriel, was murdered on the 9th of July, 1987 by the apartheid police. This hall is dedicated to his memory, and this hall is dedicated to all the freedom seeks to advance our common humanity through arts and culture. Muna, you noted that. Good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We meet today in the Ashley Kriel Memorial Hall. And we chose this hall deliberately. Over there, now you'll see a picture of a man with a bullet focused on him. That was the 20-year-old Ashley Kriel, was murdered on the 9th of July, 1987 by the apartheid police. This hall is dedicated to his memory, And this hall is dedicated to all the freedom fighters here and elsewhere who lost their lives and are continuing the struggle for freedom. You know, it's my privilege to welcome Muna to this function, Muna El-Kurd. She is a living example of resistance, and I'll deal with the nature of the resistance in due course. But let me also introduce the rest of our distinguished platform. On the extreme left, that's not a reflection of his political views, is Father Wieder, of the Dean of the St. George's Cathedral. Father, will you please rise? Everybody knows you. And my immediate left is Nkosi Mandla Mandela. I had some effort in separating him from his beautiful wife who's sitting in the well. Mandla, you're particularly welcome to Salt River. You know, those who know me will know that I'm probably the best placed person to welcome you here, because I was born about a street away from here and I've lived here all my life. We have Griffat, Abdullah Griffat, who is the leader of the, please stand. Griffat is the leader of Friends of Al-Mizan, the organization which I chair. And then lastly, and most importantly, it's my privilege to welcome our visitor to Cape Town. Please give her a warm welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Muna. We are privileged to welcome you here for many different reasons. We welcome you here as a symbol of what Sheikh Jarrah means in the struggle for the liberation of Palestine, because we recognize the importance of that event in the life of the struggle of the people of Palestine. We are better placed to recognize that. To many of us, if you go down the road here, you'll see vacant land. That vacant land is District 6. That's where 60,000 families once lived and were evicted. Many of us have spent a great portion of our lives defending the right of return to the people to that land. We will use this opportunity of your visit here, and despite your youth, we will use your opportunity here to reassert our right to the return of all District 6 residents to District 6. But in all struggle, what is most significant is the courage of the participants. And to stand against the bulldozers of Israel, one needs particular courage. And that's exactly what Muna and her family and the brother, the rest of her citizens of Sheikh Jarrah did. The courage they displayed in resisting their evictions. We salute that courage. Also commit ourselves to pursue your struggle. What we fight for in District 6, we fight for in Sheikh Jarrah. What we fight for in South Africa or elsewhere in the world is a struggle for the triumph of our common humanity. And that underpins everything we do in this country. A struggle to assert, develop, and maintain our common humanity. You will meet many South Africans from all walks of life in your short visit here. Many were courageous individuals. Many pretend to have been courageous, but we will leave that for the side. But there were many courageous individuals who constituted the body politic which saw South Africa, well, I was going to say free nation, a relatively free nation. But you learn also not simply of our triumphs, but also our weaknesses as a democracy, emergent democracy in the new era. We are time-bound, so I'll ask my speakers to, we'll ask with our first speaker will be Father. Thank you. Father Wieder.
Assalamu alaikum. Kosi Mahibenani, and good evening, everybody. And I hope, Jordan, that there will be a time when we could hear the unfolding of your narrative in a less restrained context. I have been assured that I've got 10 minutes. Wow. Because I told Yusuf this afternoon, you know, when you tell a priest 10 minutes, that's for us is warm-up time. So to honor the 10 minutes, I'm abandoning aspects of my prepared talk. And just to say that I am the 19th Dean of St. George's Cathedral. And when we were planning the process of installation on the 22nd of May 2011 for me to be the Dean, I found within the treasures of the cathedral a cross. It was called the Cross of Magdala. And I thought it was a reference to one of the disciples of Jesus, Maryam or Mary of Magdala. And I proudly walked in as someone who identified as a freedom fighter behind this cross, only to find a month later that it was a cross that was plundered off the battlefield of Magdala in Ethiopia. And I was walking behind the cross of contradictions, which placed me very firmly within the house of the empire, namely the cathedral. And for me to restore myself onto the path of which Ashley Creel found himself. And on Sunday past, Justice, when we look at what is happening, when we say from Kamisa to El Shara, what do we say as people who are Christian, who are also coming out of the veneer of freedom, the illusion of what we have achieved, and we have achieved substantial, but it is an ever receding struggle if we do not adhere and acknowledge to what truth is. The truth can never be renegotiated and revisited. And I remember as an 8-year-old, het gaan geroek in ons huis, nog nie letterlik nie. But there are evil spirits about. We can't sleep. There's a hissing in the house. My mother could not go to the lovely Irish priest, the Anglican priest in Elsies River, Father Fred Marks. She would go in the dead of night, cross the bridge over into Netrach, into Pontevel, and she would go visit there a slimman or a dukum. She would come back and she would take these Arabic prayers, these Jumachi, that she had been given, and it would be placed on a table next to her bedside, next to the King James Version and the Anglican Book of Common Prayer. And my mother would say the old Our Father and 3 Hail Marys, and it will be an Anglican Jumachi. And I understand that as the essence of Creole identity, that I am Muslim as I am Christian, Muslim as in how we assimilate and take for part course of the Spirit the way that we are to be present in this world, that Allah, that Yahweh, as love divine, has brought us into this world. And I think as Christians and as Muslims, we are fundamentally divided around the issue of Jerusalem or Al-Quds. The Christian narrative is predominantly one that buys into a Sunday school story of the chosen people. If we had to have a show of hands, 99% of you will be Muslim. Very few would be Christian, unless the Elizabeth Duff and the Elsies. One love, my sister, was that Lily. But my point is, people, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he writes in The Guardian, the English newspaper, 19 years ago, and he talks about his pilgrimage of solidarity to Jerusalem, and he's in the company of Canon Father Naim Atik of Sabil. And he recalls how in the South African struggle against apartheid, the great supporters numbered also Jewish people. They almost instinctively had to be on the side of the disenfranchised, of the voiceless ones fighting injustice, oppression, and evil. And then he refers to a moment when he's walking with Father Naim, who points out, as often as we would do when we're walking in Kildare Road, in Newlands, or in Lower Street, in the Cape Quarter, and other parts of our city that is now historically white. Father Naim pointed out, then he said, our home was over there. We were driven out of our homes. It is now occupied by Israeli Jews. And Ernestine Dean, in her poem about Constantie, says, daar waar julle nou trou, daar het my mense gebly. Daar waar julle nou by die Winelands picnic hou, daar het my mense gebly. Daar waar julle nou druiwe pluk, daar het my mense gebly. Daar waar julle nou kinders nou skoon gaan by die Waldorf, daar het my mense gebly. When we lived in those places that are now white places, land still not open and available to us, that is not only the return to District 6, but the only time I can return to Cape Town and claim my land is the Dean's parking bay at the cathedral. It's a difficult struggle, that. Our identity from our Camisa from this place of sweet waters to Jerusalem is summarized by Desmond Tutu when he says, my brother Naim Atik had said what we used to say. I am not pro this people or that people. I am pro-justice, pro-freedom. I am anti-injustice. I am anti-oppression, end of quote. And beloved, that is the creedal statement of all who believe. Whether it is Allah, whether it is the Holy Trinity or Yahweh. If it is not premised on the cornerstone of freedom, commitment, and justice, then it is idolatry. And there is no place in paradise for the one who worships a false construct of personal accumulation and of personal desire. So in conclusion, the cornerstone of a transformative, life-changing, humanizing belief is transformation, because that is where God is found. And our aging prophet Desmond Tutu, whose 90th birthday we celebrated last week, he said then, and he said repeatedly, and he recently, as in about 5 years ago, warned the ruling party about the consequences of believing in the big crowd and the easy road of compromise. He says, injustice and oppression will never prevail. Those who are powerful have to remember that the litmus test that God gives to the powerful is the basic question. What is your treatment of the poor, the hungry, the voiceless? And on the basis of that, God passes his judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for those wise words. Sheikh Gabriel, will you please come to the platform? I got to greet the Sheikh warmly. When I was in Mecca, he read me on Arafat. That's a special moment. Thank you very much for those words, Father, Reader. You know, the greatest revolutionaries the last half century are people who internationalize their struggle. Where Che Guevara in particular was born an Argentinian, fought in the struggle for the liberation of Cuba. And everybody thought he had disappeared and Castro had him killed. He reappeared in the jungles of Bolivia, fighting for the liberation of Bolivia. Then he was shot and killed by the CIA. It shows the nettle and courage of modern day revolutionaries. which we hope to be emulate ourselves. But the nearest we come to that is the Mandela family. Because he was my very good friend, Chief Mandla Mandela, his father fought for the freedom of this, his grandfather fought for the freedom of this country, was jailed for 27 years. He lived to be the president of this country. And Chief Mandla could fold his hands and say, look here, I've done my bit, my family has done my bit. But despite that, and for a number of years, Chief Mandla has stood up for the struggle of the Palestinian people. We thank him for doing that. We thank him for his courage to recommit himself to a revolution elsewhere. And we welcome him here in particular this evening. Mandla, thank you very much. I call you by your first name. Sorry? No, he came later. Let him relax a bit. Have you relaxed a bit? Mandla, will you take over?
Thank you, Judge Desai. Program Director, I have the mic. Am I audible? Is that fine? It's not audible? You can't hear me? If I stand at the speaker, okay. That's fine. You can take that one. Okay. Is that audible? Is that perfect? Okay. Thank you, Program Director, to our guest of honor, Muna El-Kurd. It's an honor to have you amongst us, to our respected ulama, especially the leadership of the MJC, Sheikh Jarrah is here accompanied by his lovely wife. It's an honor to have you with us. Also, let us acknowledge the Palestinian or Palestine Solidarity Campaign Committee members that are here with us, the South African BDS Coalition, most importantly to us that witnessed as young people, the United Democratic Front veterans that are seated here this evening. It's an honor to be amongst you as a young person of the time, but also let us acknowledge
Every precious grain of sand, every stone, and every tree. 'Cause no matter what they do, they can never hurt you. 'Cause your soul will always be free.
سؤالي للعالم، لكل إنسان في العالم، لكل إنسان بينعم بحريته. ليش إحنا بنتحاصر؟ يعني شو عملنا؟ شو ذنب شعب كامل يتحاصر داخل حدود ضيقة لأسباب هو مش عارفها؟ يعني تهيألي إحنا ما عملنا إشي نتحاصر عليه أو ننحبس عليه.
Palestine, tomorrow will be free. Palestine, tomorrow will be free.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is your brother Maher Zain. For my latest news and updates, join me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. Salam.
القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا، قدس تنادي، قدس تنادي، قدس تنادينا. يا بيت القدس لنا أمل، ستعود القدس لأمتنا، ونطهر ساحتك العذراء، وننشر فوقك رايتنا، ننشر فوقك رايتنا. القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا. بيت القدس لنا أمل، ستعود القدس لأمتنا، ونطهر ساحتك العذراء، وننشر فوقك رايتنا، ننشر فوقك رايتنا. القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا. أبناء فلسطين صبرا، فالله ينفس كربتنا، ستعود لنا قدس دارا، وتعود لنا قدس وطنا. أبناء فلسطين صبرا، فالله ينفس كربتنا، ستعود لنا قدس دارا، وتعود لنا قدس وطنا. ما جاء الليل بحلكته إلا والفجوة بسلام. يا قدس يا قدس يا قدس يا قدس يا قدس يا قدس يا قدس. يا بيت القدس لنا أمل، ستعود القدس لأمتنا، ونطهر ساحتك العذراء، ننشر فوقك رايتنا. القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا، القدس تنادينا. قدس تنادي، قدس تنادي، قدس تنادينا.
You can't deny me. You can't decide to turn your face away. No matter, 'cause there's something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. Hoe meer jy weier om my stem te hoor, hoe harder sal ek sing. Jy steek jou weg agter die muur. Jou leuen sal jou inhaal. You can't deny me. You can't decide to turn your face away. No matter, 'cause there's something inside.
And that's the arrest of young people. You know, when Ashley Kelly was around, we as lawyers made a great noise if people under the age of 18 were arrested, youths. And we succeeded very often on the basis that the arrested person was a youth. But what happens in Israel today is considerably worse. They arrest 10 and 11-year-olds, arrest and detain them. And that's totally unacceptable to any system of civilized legal order. So that's one of the issues which an international court will consider when you manage to indict the Israeli leadership in the World Court. Our next speaker is Abdullah Grifat. He's of Mizan International. Mizan is an organization which is based in Israel, and they consist of lawyers who do very much the sort of same work that we as lawyers did in the 80s and 90s. They're lawyers, they run around when people are arrested, try to get them out on bail, try to defend them, and do their best to mitigate the rigors of the Israeli legal system. But Mizan is also now international. The international organization is the Friends of Mizan, and I chair the Friends of Mizan. It's my privilege to call upon Abdullah Grifat to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Judge, for the introduction. Thank you to Father Wida, Chief Handler, Sheikh Ibrahim, thank you very much. And shukran to everyone who has come here today to honor our guests and to listen to our struggle and for your constant support. As Judge Desai said that I've been trying to, work with these lawyers to, inshallah, support the Palestinian cause. But I've been in particular since I came to this court, looking at the picture of Ashley Creel, and I'm actually remembering some of the cases that we have been representing. And one particular case came to my mind, which is about a young man who has 3 daughters, and when his name is Muhammad al-Jilani, from Jerusalem as well, when he was driving his car with his children. And I just couldn't, take my mind off this particular story where a soldier by the name of Maxime, who just came to Palestine to occupy Palestine a few years before, he actually stepped on the foot on the neck of Muhammad al-Jilani and shot him in the head from point 0. And I just, when I'm looking at that picture in front of me, I couldn't take that image from my head. And it's such a great, opportunity for us as Palestinians to come and share our history and to share our struggle with the South African community. As Judge said, that our Mizan is a legal organization that has been trying to represent Palestinians in Israeli courts. And we have been facing so many challenges because, in Israel, there is no justice. There is no way for us to fight for justice, but we are trying our best. We will continue trying our best no matter what they do, and they will never crush our will to fight for justice, which is the most important thing, is that we have a will that can never be crushed. Now we have come to South Africa, and the first person that I went to was Just Desai, and I told him about the work that we have been doing, and he blessed us by saying that, by offering us actually that, can I be part of this organization? And we told him, please, we would like you to be, the national chairperson of Friends of Mizan in South Africa. It was such a great opportunity for me when the lawyers told me that we want you to represent us in South Africa, because we see that there is a deep connection between the Palestinian struggle, the daily struggles that we are going through in Palestine, and the history of the South African people in defending, their rights and in beating and defeating apartheid. We want to learn from the South African struggle, from the transition period, and from the post-democratic, era, and because we want to learn from the achievements and from the lessons and the challenges that have been, that you have faced. And I'm sure that one day we will all sit in Palestine and say that, look, South Africa and Palestine and have been, going through a joint struggle, and then one day all of us, hopefully in our lifetime, we celebrate in Palestine the freedom of the Palestinian people. I don't want to take much time because some of you, I hope I'm not the only one who's getting hungry. So I really hope that soon enough, Muna El-Kurd, her brother, all of us who are here in this lovely dinner will be in Palestine celebrating with those prisoners, with those who have lost their homes and their lands, the refugees who have been living in refugee camps since 1948. I hope we all can return to Palestine and say that Palestine is finally free, like you have said in South Africa. And I hope that one day we don't have to come to South Africa, asking for help to support the Palestinian cause. We will come to celebrate with South Africans the Palestinian victory. Thank you very much.
You listen to the Voice of the Cape, 1.3 FM stereo, and of course, this is the Muna El-Kurd tour to SA, and of course, you just listened there to Abdullah Rifat, he's a Palestinian activist from Friends of Mizan. We, of course, are also broadcasting live at Anya and VSC, but also Al Ansar, Radio 786, Salam Media, as well as Radio Islam, ITV, and CII. And of course, we will be taking Aisha a little bit later this evening due to trying to get the maximum length of the program. And so, yeah, we do be advised that we might be taking Aisha a little bit later than scheduled. But of course, we will be endeavoring to cover the program to its fullest to bring you but not only all of the speakers, but also we'll be trying to get you Muna El-Kurd's address, which of course we've been waiting for quite some time. We know that Muna El-Kurd as an activist here in the Sheikh Jarrah region of Jerusalem. She went viral recently with her address to Israeli authorities. And also, she was recently imprisoned and also released, and this made news around the world. It's the first time I think that Sheikh Jarrah, that region of Jerusalem, was highlighted and put front and center on the global stage. Well, we'll now go back to Sheikh, or rather Judge Raj Desai, as he addresses the crowd and prepares them for Muna El-Kurd's address, which will be happening soon.
The way that you do. Resistance to the extent that you do. And thank you very much for coming to South Africa. And before you even speak, I want to say this, that from all of us here in this hall, you have our unconditional support.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone, and thank you for hosting us today. I'm very honored to be here with you, Father, all of you. I'm gonna speak in Arabic, so it will be like more comfortable to me, and Abdullah will translate. Okay? Yeah, you're fine with it?
Do I have a choice?
Okay, and you could listen to our beautiful language, Arabic language. في البداية بدي أشكركم على دعوتنا للحضور. إحنا أنا وبتكلم عن نفسي جدا سعيدة في وجودي هون في جنوب أفريقيا للمرة الثانية، وسعيدة جدا بكل الحفاوة والترحيب اللي وجدته من أهلي الجنوب أفريقيين هون في جنوب أفريقيا.
First of all, I would like to thank you for. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for receiving me here in South Africa and for your support, your constant support. I'm very happy and very honored to be with my own family here in South Africa for the second time in South Africa.
أنا من حي الشيخ جراح اللي كلكم سمعتوا عنه في الآونة الأخيرة في السوشيال ميديا وفي الإعلام، لكني معكم اليوم لأنقل لكم صوت كل فلسطيني بيعاني يومياً من انتهاكات الاحتلال في كل أماكن تواجده، في الشيخ جراح وفي سلوان وفي لفتة، في جبل صبيح، في راس العمود، في البلدة القديمة، في المسجد الأقصى، في كل أماكن تواجد الفلسطيني.
I am here. I came from Sheikh Jarrah. You have all heard about Sheikh Jarrah, social media and media in general. But I don't come here to only represent and speak about Sheikh Jarrah. I'm here to speak about Palestine as a whole. I'm here to speak about Sheikh Jarrah, Silwan, Lifta, Jabal Speh, Ras Al Amud, the old city of Jerusalem, and the entirety of Jerusalem, the West Bank, the 1948 occupied territories, Gaza and Palestine, as well as the refugees.
في وحدات حي الشيخ جراح من المكان اللي أنا جاي منه هناك 500 شخص وأكثر معرضين للتهجير القسري، معرضين لأنهم يفقدوا منازلهم ويسكنوا الشوارع، لأنه جمعية استيطانية غير قانونية تدعي ملكيتها لأراضينا ومنازلنا. لكن مثل ما إحنا في الشيخ جراح بنواجه تهجير قسري، هناك مئات آلاف الفلسطينيين اللي بواجهوا جميع أشكال الانتهاكات من قبل حكومة الاحتلال ومستوطنيه، تهجير قسري، هدم منازل، تطهير عرقي، كل جرائم الحرب اللي بتقوم بها إسرائيل على أراضي فلسطين، كالاعتقال أيضاً، الضرب، السحل، التنكيل بكل فئات المجتمع الفلسطيني، أطفالاً كانوا أم شيوخ أم كبار أم نساء.
At the moment, there are 500 people in Sheikh Jarrah alone who are now living under imminent threat of being forcibly removed from their houses. Just because there is an Israeli settler group who came only a few years ago to exist, claims that it owns the land which we have been living there for decades. But at the same time, we remember that there are other hundreds and thousands of Palestinians who are facing on a daily basis the brutality of the Israeli regime. They are facing house demolitions and ethnic cleansing. They are facing war crimes. There are children and elderly men and women. There are youth who have been struggling on a daily basis across Palestine, not only in Sheikh Jarrah.
اليوم احنا قاعدين نتعشى صحة وعافية على الجميع بالمناسبة، لكن في أثناء عشانا اليوم هناك 6 أسرى فلسطينيين مضربين عن الطعام رفضاً واحتجاجاً على اعتقالهم الإداري بدون أي تهمة. لنيل حريتهم. وأحد هؤلاء الأسرى وصل يومه 100 على التوالي في إضرابه المفتوح عن الطعام لنيل حريته.
So as we are waiting here for the food to come, and I hope you enjoy it, we also remember that there are, at the moment, as we speak, 6 prisoners who are going through a hunger strike. Those 6 prisoners are demanding their freedom because they are, being imprisoned under administrative detention without any trial, without any charges, just because they are Palestinians. They chose to go hungry and to fast and to starve because it was the last means for them to fight for their own freedom. One of those prisoners has reached his 100th day of fasting in the Israeli prison.
جاي اليوم أنقل لكم صوت أهالي حي الشيخ جراح اللي جزء منهم اليوم موجود على الحيطة هون، واللي بتمنى منكم إنكم تقرأوا قصصهم. هدول جزء بسيط منهم، لكن كل فرد في حي الشيخ جراح له قصة. كل شخص فلسطيني له قصة لازم نسمعها وندعمها. مهم تعرفوا إنه القضية الفلسطينية مش مختزلة فيي أو بأخوي محمد أو بعائلتي. القضية الفلسطينية هي قضية كل فلسطيني في فلسطين وخارج فلسطين. هي قضية كل حجر فلسطيني، كل سنتيمتر في هذه الأرض. فمن المهم إنه ندعم كل شيء فلسطيني وليس فقط نحن كأفراد.
It is important for Muna as well to represent the people of Sheikh Jarrah and to present the pictures here of the people from the neighborhood from Sheikh Jarrah. She also says that we have to learn about every one of them, about their struggles, about their daily struggles, because every Palestinian, every individual has a struggle that they are going through. Palestine is not only about Muna, it's not about her brother Muhammad, it's not only about her family, it's not only about Sheikh Jarrah. The whole of Palestine is struggling. And the entirety of Palestinian people, they are all fighting for every inch in Palestine. So the Palestinian people and the Palestinian land is entirely and collectively, we are fighting for freedom together.
صح، كان لي دور في الحراك اللي سمعتوا عنه في الآونة الأخيرة خاصة على السوشيال ميديا، لكن هذه مسؤوليتي، هذا واجبي تجاه بيتي وأرضي ووطني. كان مهم كمان أحكي لكم إنه كل شاب وشابة فلسطينية كان لهم دور في هذا الحراك على الأرض وعلى السوشيال ميديا. لذلك أنا اليوم بدي أطلب من كل الشباب الصغار في جنوب أفريقيا سواء كانوا صبايا أو شباب إنه ياخذوا مسؤوليتهم في إنهم يدافعوا عن القضية الفلسطينية، لأن القضية الفلسطينية بتشبهكم. أنتوا عشتوا اللي إحنا عمالنا بنعيشه اليوم. أنتوا عشتوا فصل عنصري، إحنا ما زلنا بنعيش هذا الفصل العنصري يومياً. ومهم أحكي لكم إنه في فلسطين مش بس هناك فصل عنصري، في تهجير قسري وهدم منازل واعتقال وضرب واعتداء يومياً. فمن المهم من الشباب اليوم ياخذوا مسؤوليتهم ويتحركوا. إحنا بدنا تحرك، توعية أكثر عن القضية الفلسطينية وتنظيم فعاليات شو ما كان شكلها لدعم القضية الفلسطينية. وأيضاً أدعو كل الجنوب أفريقيين كباراً كانوا أم صغاراً إنهم يحاولوا يضغطوا على حكومة جنوب أفريقيا لوقف وقطع علاقاتها مع الاحتلال. هذا الاحتلال اللي كل يوم بضربنا وبقتلنا.
Muna says that she had a small role in the movement in Sheikh Jarrah in the past few months, but it was only her duty was her responsibility to do what she has done. She was fighting for her house, for her land, and for her homeland. There are many other youth in Palestine who have been fighting, whether it's on social media or in the ground. Many of them have been arrested in the past few months. So we have to remember all of those. For that reason, I also send a message to the young people of South Africa to continue supporting and to stand up for Palestine and to do more action and to be more active and proactive on the ground. You and as South Africans have lived what we are living today. What your past is our present. It's very important especially the young people, to act on the ground, to organize events and to protest and to organize different ways and methods of protesting against the Israeli brutality. You can, as the people of Sheikh Jarrah have tried to be, to create and to be more creative in their struggles, she also urged you to also be creative in the ways and the methodology that you use in fighting against the Israeli regime. She also urged the entire people of South Africa to keep pushing and pressuring on your South African government to support the Palestinian people.
مش فقط لا نريد فقط من حكومة جنوب أفريقيا دعمنا كفلسطينيين، لكن كما كنت أقول دائما نحن بحاجة لتحرك، لفعل ملموس. وبالتالي أنا بدعوكم وبطلب منكم تضغطوا على حكومة جنوب أفريقيا وبالتالي كل حكومات العالم لوقف وقطع علاقاتها مع هذا الكيان الصهيوني الغاصب الفاشي المتطرف اللي بيقتلنا يوميا، اللي بيعتقلنا يوميا، اللي بيهجرنا يوميا. احنا مجبرين على التعامل مع محاكم احتلالية استعمارية استيطانية فاشية برأسها قضاة مستوطنين يهود لابسين الكيبا على راسهم ووضعين قوانين لخدمة الاستيطان والمستوطنين وليس لخدمتي أنا كفلسطينية. لكن إحنا مجبرين على التعاطي والمثول أمام هذه المحاكم، لكننا لا نؤمن بهذه المحاكم، وبالتالي نحن نؤمن بالحراك الشعبي على الأرض في فلسطين وفي خارج فلسطين. نحن نؤمن بشعبنا الفلسطيني ونؤمن بأحرار العالم كشعب جنوب أفريقيا للاستمرار في دعمنا حتى تحرير فلسطين، كل فلسطين من البحر للنهر.
So we ask you to also mobilize the South African government, not to only support the Palestinian people, but also to act for the Palestinian people. We ask you to help and to push your government to also cut its ties and its relations with the Israeli regime. We in Sheikh Jarrah are fighting against the Israeli legal system, and because we have to stand in the Israeli court. It's not something we choose. We understand that all the Israeli judges, they are all settlers, Jewish settlers who came from overseas, and they put laws and regulations to fight against us and to back and to support the settlers, because they themselves are settlers supporting a settler regime. It is very unfortunate that we have to deal with these courts. Even though we do not believe in them, we do not think that they are legitimate at all. It's an illegitimate legal system. However, we have to fight in it. We believe in the popular struggle, and we believe in the connection and the support of people like yourselves on the ground to support the freedom of Palestine from the river to the sea.
طولت عليكم بعرف، بس بدي أختم. لما القاضي حكى لي هذه صورة مين؟ اللي موجه عليها رصاصة. خلوا هاي الصورة قدامكم واعرفوا إنه كل يوم في شخص فلسطيني موجهة نحوه رصاصة ممكن انتوا تكونوا شاريينها بعدم مقاطعتكم لمنتجات الاحتلال. شكرا لكم.
Earlier when we came in, Judge Desai explained a little bit about the image of Ashley Greer there. And she says that these all look at the picture and remember that on a daily basis, there is a child or there is a Palestinian who's being killed, just like Ashley Greer was killed here in South Africa. For that reason, we want to remind you that the boycott campaign is very important, because in every cent that you spend and in every rand that you spend on Israeli products, you actually support and you help the Israeli regime to buy a bullet to kill innocent people, just like Ashley Greer was killed. Thank you.
Thank you, Muna, for those very inspiring words. We are inspired by what you are. Thank you very much. You know, Muna spoke about administrative detention. Jimmy, you should be familiar with that. He's a victim of administrative detention. Administrative detention means being locked up without a trial. We resented that in the apartheid era. We fought against that. It's happening now, continues to happen in Israel, in Palestine and in Israel. The debate about whether they should be defended in courts, in Israeli courts or not, is a debate we also participated in our time. But as they choose to do, to defend themselves despite the uncertainty and perhaps illegality of appearing in an Israeli court. Their struggle that demonstrates that it is very much a similar struggle that we fought here in this country. But there's one concluding remark I wish to make. Their slogan is, we resist to exist. And that's a chilling thought. It's chilling because if you don't resist, you fail to exist. And they've assumed that slogan as their own because the reality of the struggle in Israel today. It shows how deathly that struggle has become. And the Ashley kills of yesteryear or the Ashley kills of today in Palestine and in Israel. We can only assume that the struggle will intensify before it reaches greater heights. And all we can do as a free nation is to recommit ourselves, rededicate ourselves to support in any manner we can the struggle of the Palestinian people. You know, we've supported it over the years in different ways. But the intensification of the plight means that we should intensify our struggle on the ground, in the arenas in which we participate in this country to find a solution. Chief Mandela has pointed out several respects in which we can intensify the struggle. Boycott, divestment campaign is a vital cog in that wheel. We must intensify it at every level we can. Muna, it's a privilege to have you here. You see that you are amidst friends. We are many friends here. But we are not simply friends in the ordinary sense of the word. We are comrades in your struggle. And as you fight a bitter struggle in Palestine, remember us here who are with you, sharing your pain. And more than sharing your pain, also committing our lives to your struggle. We do the best we can. Martin, will you pass the vote of thanks? Martin Jansen of the PSC will pass the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. A vote of thanks to the following. Firstly, Mizan for organizing and initiating this visit. Abdullah Griffith, thank you very much. And then our panel up here, the Chairperson, Siraj Desai, our speakers, Nkosi Mandla Mandela, Father Michael Weeder, and Sheikh Ibrahim Gabriels. Thank you very much for gracing us with your presence and your wise words of inspiration. The Cape Cultural Collective for their cultural items, and sorry to Jordan, hopefully we'll have scope to give you some airtime. The organizing committee, and there are too many individuals to mention. There's a long WhatsApp group, so I'll mention the organizations. It's the MJC, PSC Cape Town, Friends of Mizan, PSF UCT, and Al-Quds Youth. I think I've covered all of them. And then very importantly to Community House for granting us the venue for free as a political gesture. I'm just wondering if it's possible at all for Muna during the supper, maybe just to go around and pay respects and connect to the other martyrs who we memorialize at Community House. We have been introduced to Ashley Keel, or she has, but there are quite a few others that would be worth going to see. Perhaps the manager, Joa, could do that for us. So Community House, we want to thank for the venue, and then all the service providers, the sound, the caterers, and also the media, and of course the sponsors who don't want to be named. Thank you very much. And our guest of honor, thanks to you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you.
This has been live broadcast from this. This has been live broadcast from the Ashley Creel Community Hall here in Salt River, and of course welcoming Muna El-Kurd to Cape Town, her first official South African visit. Friends of Mizan, Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Muslim Judicial Council, as well as Useful Al-Quds hosting organizations, and of course this has been carried live on the Voice of the Cape, Radio Al Ansar, Radio 786, Salam Media, Radio Islam, ITV, and CII.